Sound is good. Okay. Now, could you just start from the beginning and just tell me what you remember from what your parents had told you about...
Okay. Are we on yet?
You are.
How about that? Here we are on August the 8th, right?
Mm-hmm.
2009.
Yep.
And we're sitting on the deck of the cruise ship Navigator of the Sea. Isn't this wonderful?
It is. Very wonderful.
Great.
Hi, Grandma.
Bobby, maybe what we should start really, if you're not pressed for time, maybe I'd like to go back just a little bit.
Bob, would you fix the collar on your shirt?
This is casual.
I know, darling, but if you get up and give it a tug, you look better. Get up. Right, come here. After all, you know.
I asked Bob if he wanted me to change the shirt.
No, you don't have to change the shirt. Just turn around now. Turn around. Turn around. There. Okay, Bob, go ahead. Not much I can do with the rest of it.
Am I all right, Bob?
You're good. You look great.
See, the way it is, you get to be within another 2 months, on October the 4th, I'll become 82 years old.
Oh
Thank
my
God.
goodness.
Isn't that something? And see, my wife, my lovely wife, comes in to make sure I look okay. But what I wanted to tell you is that I think we should begin with a little bit with my father.
Okay.
My father was actually the head of the family, and he was born on October the 4th, 1902. I was born exactly 25 years later on October the 4th, 1927, on my father's 25th birthday. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't.
That's right. And my mother used to rag him and used to say, well, that's the last birthday present I have to give you because I gave you your first son. My father was named Francesco Saverio Carnevale, and his parents never intended to name him Francesco. They wanted to name him Saverio. Why, I never knew, and my father never told me, or maybe he didn't know himself, but he did know that he was supposed to be Saverio Carnevale. What happened is he was born on October the 4th, and October the 4th is the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi. He is a very popular and favorite Roman Catholic saint with the Italian people. So his parents decided, well, we'll name him Francesco in honor of St. Francis. And that's how my father got to be named Francesco.
Okay.
But they did name him Francesco Saverio Carnevale.
Where does Saverio come from?
I really don't. It's just a very popular Italian name. Most people that are named Saverio, people call them Sam here. So if you got a man named Saverio, you'll find that his friends are referring to him as Sam.
Okay.
But my father was always Francesco. Now, why did my father come to America? He was born in the village of Pico. That's in the province of Frosinone, which is about 35 miles southwest, I guess, of Rome. It's about an hour's drive. I've done it many times.
I did it with you.
You did it with me, is
Remember?
correct. Well, my father was the second son. He had an older brother, and his older brother was named Thomas. You know, it's tradition, and always was tradition in Italian families, that the first son was named after the grandfather. My father's older brother was named Tommaso after his grandfather. My father's name was Angelo, and he was the oldest brother in the Carnevale family. Consequently, now what happened was my uncle Tommaso, my father's brother, had no children. He did have one daughter, but she died prematurely. And after she died, they adopted they actually didn't adopt her, but they took in a young Italian girl who was an orphan, and they just took care of her just like a daughter, but she was never legally adopted. And she married someone, and they moved away from Pico. They moved, I know them, Latina, a town called Latina, which is halfway between Pico and Italy along the coast.
Okay.
And they lived there.
Good morning. Mind if I listen? Or you want me
No.
to just be invisible?
No.
I'm not going to say
Good-
anything.
Good morning, Robert.
Hi, Dad.
I'm giving him a lot of background which you're familiar with.
Don't forget Dumb Dora.
Don't forget who?
Dumb Dora. Dumb Dora.
Oh, we haven't gotten that far. This is going to be extensive. You might get tired.
No, I don't get tired. I'm not going to say anything.
Oh.
You could say something. It's kind
But
of casual.
to get back, are we okay, Bob?
You're perfect.
To get back to my father, he was a young man, and I don't think he was 18 years old. But in Italy, even in peacetime, young men were required to serve time in the military. And his older brother, had already been in the Italian army, and he was discharged favorably and returned back to Pico. Now, what happened is my father was approaching the age where he was going to be conscripted into the Italian army. And not that they were against that practice, but they were a little bit selfish and self-serving. What happened is these people were very, very poor. They lived on the land. They had a tract of land that was handed down by generations. And the tract of land they had, when you start passing it down and splitting it up, it gets smaller pieces. So the secret was having land. So my grandfather Angelo and my father talked, and they says, what we're going to do is we're going to send you to the land of plenty. That's America. They didn't call it the United States, they called it America. So my father was chosen to come to America, not to live here or stay here, but his mission was to come here and work and earn money and send the money back to his father, and they would accumulate this money and buy land. That would give them more land, and the more my father could earn, the more he could send back to Angelo, my grandfather. They would buy land, and they would give him more land to sustain the family. So that was the purpose in sending my 18-year-old father to America by himself. So where in America did he go? Now, most people who were coming to America in those days followed family or friends that had immigrated previously. And let me backtrack. My grandfather My grandfather was I told you, was the oldest son of Tommaso, right? But he had brothers. He had a brother named Giovanni, that's John, and he had a brother named Felice, that is Felix. And they were my father's uncles. They were both in America, and they were in Providence or in Rhode Island. Now, why or how they happened to come to Rhode Island, I don't know. And I never really found out, but they were here. So the practice was, we send you where there's someone there. So his father wrote to his brothers and asked them to take care of his son, who he was going to send to America. Not only that, but they really didn't have the funds to send my father to America. So his Uncle John and his Uncle Felice, they sent money to Angelo so that he could pay for my father's transportation to America. My father came alone, and he was indebted to Felice and John, and after he came to America, he worked and he repaid them the money they loaned on his behalf. So that's how my father got to America. And I remember him telling me when he came to America, when he got off the boat, he had $8. That's all he had, plus the clothes on his back and a satchel that his mother and father put together for him. And that's what he had when he came to America.
In New York?
He came through New York, positively. He went through Ellis Island, where most of the immigrants did, and he went through that process. But he did have information. He did have name, and he had a passport. In fact, I think your father still has the passport today. Well, anyhow, that's how my father got to America. I never really found out how he got from New York to Providence. That's a blank spot. I don't know. I wish I knew. I've got to presume that somehow his uncles arranged for him to get to Providence, either through other friends or whatever they did. But he did get to Providence, and he went to live with Felice, his Uncle Felix. And they had not a very large house, but a nice house, and the family still has it today. It's located on Rowley Street, R-O-W-L-E-Y Street, off Chalkstone Avenue. It's in the back, it has a little piece of land, maybe what constitutes today a couple of lots, and the house was built there. But Felice had a house of daughters. He had about 6 daughters and a son, and they took my father in, and they treated him very, very well. But they were all, their beds were set in cubby holes as best they could find space. Well, anyhow, my father, excuse me, my father went to work the very following Monday. He came in on a weekend, and the very following Monday, his Uncle John had arranged for him to work with a contractor as a common laborer. And my father was glad to go to work. He wasn't afraid of work. But I want to backtrack for just a minute, because I did a little research, and I want to fill you in on it. Through, there's a society or a group of people that have assembled a lot of information on people who went through Ellis Island. And it's still available on the internet. If you check it out, you can find it like I did. But I had a great deal of difficulty. I knew the name of the ship he come over on. He come over on a ship called Duco di Osta.